Bishop Roy Lawrence Haley, Winbush. Not knowing that 6 years later, I would be returning to the Acadiana area to start my profession as an educator in a town 7 miles east of Crowley, Rain, Louisiana. He had become an icon in my sight. When I was in high school, I recommended him to become the baccalaureate speaker for Mossville High School. He went, and of course, everybody was talking about what a magnificent job he did. Of course, I stuck my chest out because I was Church of God in Christ. And it wasn't often we got somebody to brag on a Church of God in Christ preacher speaking in an academic setting. And he did a tremendous job there. Not only that, but when I returned to become a teacher in this area, it was my fortune to be the sponsor of the senior class. I called him in again to become a baccalaureate speaker. But they also wanted him to be the commencement speaker. So he served a dual role on that occasion. In 1967, the lovely Dr. Ezora Proctor came to Rain. And because of his charismatic personality, he was able to convince her to come with me to church in Crowley, Louisiana. So I would go with her to Starlight Baptist Church at 7 o'clock. She would come with me to First Church at 10 o'clock. And eventually, she was won over to the Church of God in Christ. In 1969, she became my wife. And it was he who performed the ceremony along with her pastor at the time. In 1960, that was in 1969 when we were married. In the summer of 1970, we went to a convocation in Minden, Louisiana. And it was there that they made him a district superintendent. And to my amazement, he came and grabbed my wife and said, "You're going to be my district missionary." Lo and behold, she served in that capacity for 42 years. Before she stepped down, in order for me to become a district superintendent in 2011. I'm saying all of this because I wasn't preaching during all of this time when he pulled her in as his district missionary. But it was in the summer of 1972. The call was on my life since I was 11 years old, but I'd been running from preaching. But in 1972, I was on my way to school. I was a counselor at that time, doing the schedule that summer for the following fall. But tears started coming down my eyes and I couldn't stop crying, so I turned around and went back to Crowley. And instead of going home and letting my wife see me in that state, I went by the church, went up the fire escapes, knocked on the door, And he came to the door and said, "What's the matter, fella?" And I couldn't say anything. He said, "All you have to do is say yes to the Lord." And I threw my hands up and said, "Yes, Lord." And the tears stopped going. I preached my first sermon a month later. Official sermon, I should say. And then the following March at the workers' meeting, I was sitting down in the fellowship hall eating a fish sandwich. And the ushers came and said, they have need of you in the upper room. And I went to the upper room. I said, "Well, who wants me?" He said, "You pastor." And I went up, and Bishop Winbush, he was superintendent then, he said, "You're going before the catechizing committee." He hadn't told me anything. But I went before that committee, and I passed it, of course. But the following May, he took me to New Orleans Baptist Theological Seminary, introduced me to some key people there, and I was able to get into that school and work on my degree. I took a sabbatical leave from my job as an educator. Was fortunate enough to be treated by Southern Baptists as a Baptist. I didn't have to pay all of the other matriculation fees. I got by paying $100 a term. And I didn't have to go looking for a place to live off of the campus. They let me live on the campus. My wife and I benefited from the input that he put into our lives. And as a result, here I am today. I'm a son of Bishop Winbush, and she's a daughter of Bishop Winbush. I remember when I came to the area on Sundays, I didn't have anywhere to go. But Odessa saw to it that I had somewhere to go. And Mama, but Proctor don't have anywhere to go today. I got to eat. But then I had to play with Vanessa and Odessa. They were really tough girls. But we had good times. We grew up there in Crowley. And now I'm blessed to be his successor. But he poured a lot into me. And because of what he poured into me, I am what I am. As Alfred Lloyd Tennyson said in his work Ulysses, as he returned from his world travels, and he looked back through the abyses, he says, "I'm a part of all that I've met. And I'm a part of you. I'm a part of your family. And I appreciate what you have put into me as my leader." Tonight, it does me a great privilege to introduce to some and present to others. Our speaker for this evening. When we were looking for a speaker, the family said, we want Bishop Daniels. And when I called him, he immediately said yes. He comes to us with good credentials. A great worker in the vineyard of the Lord. I think he's one of the greatest preachers we have in the Church of God in Christ. He has the privilege of serving as a member of the General Board and the distinction of having succeeded our leader, Bishop Winbush, as the secretary of that board. He is the prelate of the Wisconsin First Jurisdiction and pastor of that great church there. He has many ministries that I read about all the time. I even took his, I think it's a 10-year strategic plan. I'll check it out, Brother Daniel. And I copy off of it. Thank you. Won't be pleasure. But it does me great honor, and I'm blessed to have the opportunity to present this great servant of God. Following the selection from the choir, the next voice that you will hear, and we will all stand to receive him, is the Bishop Cedric Daniels, a member of the Presidium of our church. We will stand in recognition of him as he comes to us following the selection from the choir. Be blessed.